All right, guys. So I'm here with Xero today, and Helm, and we're presenting Streamlining Your Annual Compliance with Xero and TaxCycle. So I'm really looking forward to this session today. Really excited to showcase Xero, our entire ecosystem, as well as TaxCycle. So today we're happy to share some exciting features with Xero, HubDoc, TaxCycle all around. More important than the individual features, however, though, that I'm going to be showing today are how the pieces all connect together so you can begin to understand the vision we're building towards to provide you with a more seamless end-to-end experience for Canadian practitioners. That's kind of the name of the game. The Canadian accounting industry is on the verge of a massive change, and end-to-end cloud-based solutions are here to enable time savings, efficiencies, and greater control over the process. So really excited to share that today. So for those of you who don't know me, which is probably going to be everybody, my name is Nick, and I'm a partner consultant here at Xero Canada. So some of you may be wondering, what exactly is a partner consultant? Well, a PC is a Xero subject matter expert for our partners. When you work with Xero, you not only get access to our amazing software, but you also get one-on-one valuable FaceTime with local PCs, such as myself, to help with anything from software implementations, demonstrations in the software, and even tips and tricks to help you get more efficient and ensure you're maximizing your potential along your Xero journey. So now that you know a little bit more about partner consultants, let me tell you how I got here. So previous to my time in Xero, I actually spent many years in public practice as a CPA, working in various areas like assurance in tax in some pretty large firms here in Ottawa, where I'm actually from. Most recently, I did find myself actually managing a book of year-end clients. So these were clients that I was only doing their compliance and tax work for at year-end. Some of them would provide me with their books. Some of them would provide me with bank statements, and I'd have to deal with it and get them to their T2. This led me to my passion of finding workflow efficiencies to help me get some time back in my life. I was young, driven. I really wanted more free time, more personal time to hang out with my family and friends. So I felt I had to do it myself if I wanted to get there. Now, since joining Xero, I've actually had the pleasure of working with many firms across the country who are seeking this very same thing, getting some time back. So for that reason, I am personally very excited to share with you all today how Xero and TaxCycle can help streamline your annual compliance workflows. So what can you expect from today's session? Well, over the course of the next hour or so, I think we're close to an hour, I'll show you how you can truly harness the power of Xero and Xero's ecosystem for year-end compliance activities or write-ups, which we'll get into shortly. So this isn't just a high-level presentation. We'll also showcase what the product looks like through some walkthroughs at every step along the way. I personally love showing, at minimum, some screenshots so you guys can actually see what I'm talking about, rather than me just kind of preaching all of this efficiency tools and things like that. So finally, we'll make sure we spend some time covering the exciting new addition of the Xero family, TaxCycle, and more importantly, how when it's paired with Xero, it can be a force to be reckoned with your upcoming tax season. So really excited to showcase that, guys. So a little bit of overview and context for today's presentation. Why are we looking into this year-end write-up or year-end compliance workflow? Well, let's be honest, everyone, the profession is undergoing a massive shift. We need to be able to service our clients more efficiently in order to retain staff and enhance our workflows effectively. This is where the cloud comes to play. Cloud solutions are the only way that accountants can actually improve workflow efficiencies and access client data at any time on any device, whether that's your smartphone, your tablet, or a laptop, wherever you are. For example, imagine your client calls you needing some accounting advice or help while you're out on the road. With cloud solutions, you could essentially log into their accounting platform and take a look from wherever you are. This way, you can provide your clients with better information to help them make the right business decisions at any time from any place. That's ultimately the goal, right? We all got into accounting so that we could become experts and advisors. We don't want to be just crunching numbers all the time. We want to be advising our clients. So in fact, Xero recently did a study And based on the feedback we received from the market, improving business efficiencies was the #1 priority for Canadian accountants and bookkeepers. And what did they want to reinvest that time back into? Well, we heard 3 major core areas. One being having more time to better service their clients. A lot of accountants are simply just juggling everything and trying to get everything done, and they don't really have enough time to really dive deep into their clients' needs. Next was growing their business. A lot of firms are just kind of, like I mentioned before, just getting by, and they can't even think about expanding into the way they want to. They're just expanding in a, aimless growth, basically, market. So what they want to do is have more time to select and choose niche markets that they want to move into. And lastly, but not least, probably the most important, was to get better work-life balance for themselves and their staff. So this is probably my favorite point because, again, I'm a huge advocate of this as well. So why are we focusing our efforts on year-end workflows in Canada? Well, that's because there are many potential challenges that Canadian practices can endure to effectively service their clients at year end. So let's take a look at why. First, we've got our manual error-prone processes. A lot of these solutions are on desktop, nothing is talking to each other, and desktop solutions often require manual data entry. We're all human here. Humans are inherently not perfect and prone to making mistakes, which is fine, but it can ultimately cause a bog down in your workflow efficiencies. Next is disconnected tools and systems. Now, data transferred to various pieces of software all to get one job done is not very efficient. A typical Canadian firm or practitioner can use 3 to 4 different software subscriptions all to complete one job. Now, getting this data from one software to the next can actually create inefficiencies in workflow and cause huge amounts of time to be wasted. Getting this data from one software to the other, it should be a breeze, basically. And we want to make that so moving forward. And we don't want your staff to be bogged down by that time wasted. And next is staffing shortages and impacts of COVID-19. Now, there is no secret that the pandemic kind of shook up the traditional 9 to 5. Accounting staff and other industries as well are beginning to seek other opportunities elsewhere in order for more remote opportunities and to maintain that remote lifestyle. Having spoken to hundreds of firms across the country myself, that's essentially what I do every day, and I love it, but I know firsthand how many of them will bring up this issue. I'm losing staff, I can't retain staff, I can't find good talent. So it's clearly a huge issue in the Canadian accounting industry today. And finally, we have ever-changing regulatory standards. New CSRS 4200 engagement standards for NTRs, to name a few. Now, this requires more work and likely larger bills for your clients. Now, the larger bill just comes around the larger WIP that you're probably going to have to go through in order to complete that workload. But this is leading to a shift in demand for NTRs, where some clients may not want them anymore because they're too expensive, as an example. So now we just heard about all of these different challenges that firms are facing this coming busy season. So how can Xero help? That's kind of why we're all here, right? Well, we can perform a Xero write-up. Now, write-up is a term that's not commonly used here in Canada. It's actually used a lot in the US. The other terms in Canada are usually something like annual compliance or year end. But we at Xero have actually started using this term write-up for Canadian practitioners as a way of identifying clients that they're doing internal year ends for. So for example, a client drops off 12 months of bank statements and you need to go from statement all the way to tax. That's where we've seen a wide range of tools actually being used, like Excel and Caseware as an example, where you're taking statements from a client and manually keying in every single transaction, could be hundreds of transactions, to their corresponding accounts. This can be super time consuming. And let's be honest, this kind of takes the fun out of accounting, if there was any fun to begin with. Joking. So this is where the Xero write-up comes into play. Now, what does this year-end write-up look like? So I'm going to take you guys through the Xero and year-end write-up workflow at a glance, taking you through the 4 different major stages of a year-end write-up. So as you guys can already see on the screen, stage number 1 is data intake or data ingestion. So this is where we're getting the data from our clients and getting it into Xero or your cloud-based solution. Next, we have our account preparation and reporting. This is your year-end bookkeeping where you're reconciling all of your transactions to generate the trial balance or other reports. This is typically done in your core Xero platform as an example. Once you've finished all of that bookkeeping and you've got your year-end trial balance ready, in a typical compliance workflow, you might have work papers or a year-end compliance engagement software. This is where you can bring in your supporting documentation to tie to different financial statement figures. You can book your year-end entries like depreciation, accrue your accounting fees, things like that. All can be done in Xero work papers. And finally, and not least, we have income tax, the last stage of this year-end workflow. We're going from statement all the way to T2 or T1. Now, using tools like HubDoc, Xero, Xero work papers, and TaxCycle will allow us to pass work between staff, managers, and partners without actually exchanging any paper by hands. Now, all this documentation is all saved in one place that needs to be signed off on the financial statements to cover ourselves for practice inspection from, let's say, CPA Canada. Now, you'll also see that we've split the types of engagements that you can find into 2 separate paths. So you'll notice there's a light blue path and a dark blue path here showing 2 different methods. Now, in the light blue path, we have the traditional compliance engagement or compliance previously known as NTR as an example. However, you also have what we've called a simplified year-end. So as discussed earlier, with the new standards, there are many clients who actually never required or no longer require a full compilation. Maybe they're not getting bank funding. They don't really need any other users to look at the statements. So for those, you can actually conduct year-end bookkeeping and then go straight to helping them prepare the T1 or T2 income tax returns without doing all of that fancy compliant work that's all in compliant with the CPA standards. We're seeing firms more and more delineate between the two to be more efficient while also providing their clients with the right type of service suited to their needs, with the biggest difference of whether or not you need supporting documentation, you need a risk assessment done, or you need any review notes in the work papers done as well. So that is a high-level overview of the year-end workflow at a glance. Now, if you are to align your year-end workflow processes with this Xero streamlined approach, it will provide more benefits such as giving you time back even in year 1 as an example. It'll also allow you to make more decisions with better financials. Having everything available on the cloud at one place at any time can actually provide you with more insights into your client's financials. Next, it'll ensure accuracy and create more visibility into your clients. Obviously, with cloud-based solutions, we're moving away from manual data entry and allowing the system to take care of that for us. We know that humans are prone to making errors, and this will eliminate a lot of those errors from either reconciling or bringing data from one software to the next. There's just less opportunity for error here. And all of these together to make your year-end process more scalable. There is a huge amount of clients out there in Canada, probably the largest portion, who just need these either simple year-end or simple compliance year-end workflows done. And a lot of firms are struggling with making them efficient enough to really scale that market segment. So with Xero and TaxCycle combined, we're hoping to make that so much easier for Canadian practitioners. So let's look at that first stage, data intake, and how Xero is making it easier than ever to get your clients' data into the software. So, bank feeds. We know bank feeds can be a huge point of contention. Bank feeds often are not working very well because of our closed banking system in Canada, but we have some exciting new features with the Xero software to share. First, we have a new direct feed with BMO Banking. So BMO Banking for business clients can actually sync their data directly with Xero with a few simple clicks in the software. This beta is now happening as we speak. So I'm really excited to hear some feedback about how that's going with new clients you're bringing on. But we didn't stop there. We've got more coming from these agreements. We've actually got a new Yodlee API access agreement as well, which is giving Xero access to new direct bank feeds for RBC and TD as early as 2023. It's going to be a little earlier in 2023 for RBC and then a little bit later in 2023 for TD, all to give us about 60% line of sight for the current Xero bank feed connections available in Canada. Overall, this is helping us get away from credential sharing and moving towards more high quality bank feeds. We all know that if you do have cloud-based solutions and you have set up a bank feed, it can be a pain if it breaks and you have to reach out to your client and re-log in and multi-factor authentication. So we're really trying to streamline this process for our users in the market, because ultimately sharing data with your clients is the only way that we're going to make our lives easier and be able to help them make better business decisions moving forward. Not sure why it's not clicking. There we go. So BMO direct feed now being live. I just wanted to throw this in there just in case there's any Xero users who do have clients who want to set up this new direct feed. There's a little QR code here that should help you get more instructions on how to do so. This is going to work with business accounts, BMO commercial accounts, BMO capital market accounts. The only caveat here is that it's unfortunately not going to be available in Quebec. Not sure how much that causes too much issues with any of you, but Quebec recently signed a new bill where everything must be in English and French. Unfortunately, the bank feed that's coming through is only in English. So Quebec is disallowing this in their province. So we were hoping to get more updates on that shortly though. So we've also built alternatives to bank feeds to provide you with greater choice as well. If your bank feeds don't work, you're performing a catch-up, or you prefer statements from your clients, we're excited to introduce new ways to easily extract transaction data from bank statements to get data from Xero from HubDoc. Now, this beta is currently live with RBC, TD, Scotia, and BMO, but it's being expanded by the end of the year to support PDF statements from CIBC as well. All of this is going to give us coverage for about 70% of the major available banks in Canada. So we should be able to have you covered there if you are receiving statements from your clients. Now, the feature currently supports native digital PDFs downloaded directly from your bank only, but we know how important it is to be able to extract data from paper statements as well, especially when managing shoebox clients, like the clients that bring you that box or that binder full of loose leaf papers. So our team is actively working on being able to support scanned paper statements as well. And we hope to share some updates on that coming soon, but I am super, super excited about this because I am a huge fan of this technology, regardless of if you're a Xero user or not. Being able to extract transactional data from a PDF and ultimately making the bookkeeping portion of your write-up more efficient as it eliminates the need to manually key in each transaction. We didn't get into accounting to just recopy transactions from bank statements. We want to make sure that we can take that data and manipulate it in a way that we can provide better advice for our clients at the end of the day. So once you have that data from the statements ready to import into Xero or any other software, whether from HubDoc or directly downloaded from that client's bank, you can now find an updated, cleaner, and simplified experience waiting for you. This not only further streamlines your year-end process, but it also increases the accuracy as there is a new review pane added prior to importing the data into Xero, as you can see on the screen here. This helps allow you to proactively catch and exclude incorrect data before it goes into Xero. So essentially, guys, prior to this update, you would simply select the file that you wanted to import. Let's say it's a CSV of transactions, and you just simply import it in, hoping for the best every time. Now, this is going to allow you to review the data, make sure your debits and credits are correct, make sure your date ranges are correct, all of that stuff. And you can exclude or include items to ensure that that first import goes correctly and provides you with more accurate client data all around. So take it from Melissa Leno. She is a Xero ambassador and professional bookkeeper. She quotes, "Before HubDoc's bank statement extraction feature was available, we would send PDF statements to another program, which would have a 3-hour and sometimes 24-hour turnover to process the data. Now it sends in seconds. This accuracy and efficiency is seriously a game changer for end of month work, but it's also accurate. You can spend less time reviewing and cleaning the data because it spits it out into a Xero importable format directly, and it's seamless on one platform. It's now easier to get high quality data into Xero without relying on other tools or subscription. So this feature is actually free with HubDoc. So a lot of other softwares out there, you will have to essentially pay per use or pay per extraction. This will essentially allow you to pay one subscription fee a month with your HubDoc included, and you can essentially extract as many different bank statements as you'd like. So I personally love this feature. I am a huge advocate of sticking towards getting the bank statements from your clients rather than relying on feeds. With the current state of our closed banking system or secure banking system in Canada, it is very hard to get access to those direct feeds. And if they break, it's very annoying to have to go to your clients and regenerate them with them using multi-factor authentication. So I absolutely love that Xero is investing so much into extracting data from, PDF statements and scan copies as well. So now that we've extracted the data and we're ready to import into Xero, we can move on to stage 2, which is our accounts preparation and reporting. This is where you're actually going to be reconciling your transactions and generating those reports that really help tell the story behind the numbers. It's also where a lot of this workflow can get bogged down, causing your staff to burn out and waste time ultimately. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Now, I've got a little video here that I hope you are all going to be able to hear. You don't really need to hear it, but essentially what you're going to be seeing is a side-by-side comparison of someone doing some bookkeeping manually in Excel versus someone doing bookkeeping in the cloud on Xero, and what that time difference looks like. All right, guys, again, so what we just saw there was someone looking at a bank statement and manually typing in those transactions into Excel, as opposed to taking those statements, extracting the transactions, importing them into Xero, and then just quickly bookkeeping them in Xero. Now, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a huge advocate of actually diving into the software to show you what I'm talking about rather than just kind of preaching to the choir. So what I've done here is I've actually taken some screenshots of like typical workflows to give you guys an idea of what this looks like. So right now, what we're looking at is a cash coding screen within Xero. Now, this layout allows you to see all of the transactions that have been imported or fed into Xero in one kind of holistic view. Now, you might also notice that this kind of looks like an Excel spreadsheet down here. Now, as accountants, we love Excel spreadsheets because we can now sort and manipulate large sets of data very easily. So as an example, if we were to sort by payee, like I selected the payee button, what's happening now is Xero is sorting all of those transactions alphabetically for us. This making it very easy for us to identify grouped reoccurring transactions. Now, clients are typically very habitual. They will go the same vendors, same gas stations, same restaurants, et cetera, year after year after year. When seeing these, we can use features available within the software such as bank rules, which will automatically code transactions based on how we set them up. So as you guys can see, the account and tax rate information has actually already been filled out. And now we can utilize these systems as well as bulk coding which will automatically pick up the transactions for you itself. Now within Xero, what's so great about that is you can actually perform a one-click reconciliation that will pick up any transaction that has a bank rule associated to it. So we can see that we're able to reconcile 152 transactions in a matter of seconds. And these time savings will only compound in future periods as more rules are entered into the system. These are where the primary time savings are coming from with the Xero workflow as opposed to more traditional kind of manual workflows like we saw with Excel. I'm actually guilty of the more manual workflows in my past accounting life with that book that I managed. And I'll tell you guys, I nearly fell off my chair when they showed this to me for the first time. I couldn't believe that I'd been manually typing in transactions for so many years when something like this was available to help me get that time back in my life. Now, once we've reconciled those books, we can actually move on to stage 3. We've extracted the data from HubDoc, we've imported it into Xero. We've gone through Xero's kind of bread and butter with the most efficient reconciliations of your life. We've told the story behind the numbers if you pulled any reports. Now it's time to do a formal year-end using a work papers solution. Now you guys will notice that in the dark blue or simplified approach, this is not the case. You would be going directly from bookkeeping to T2. So this is more focused on those clients who will need that compilation engagement performed rather than just going simply straight from tax or from bookkeeping all the way till tax. So Xero work papers. This is where we get to introduce Xero work papers. We know that work papers solutions available in Canada can be a sore spot. A lot of the ones that are currently available are expensive, cumbersome, and all around not very user-friendly. So what exactly is Xero work papers? Well, it's essentially a platform that exists within the Xero ecosystem that allows you to manage your work programs, your lead sheets, and full-featured work papers. Best of all, it's cloud-based and links directly with Xero with integrations and hot links. So you can access the most up-to-date information at any time from anywhere without having to sign files kind of in and out through a server, as an example. Now, Xero work papers actually comes free to any silver partners or above. So if you're silver or gold, you will get access to Xero work papers for free. So this can really help with your partner margins moving forward. And we've recently just launched a new working trial balance beta. So this will allow you to review the data and see the impact of adjustments directly from work papers rather than having to go back into Xero. And you can also review posted and draft journals throughout the year-end process. It also allows you to do a really quick little variance, as it has a variance column, so you can see which accounts have changed the most year over year. Now, what's really exciting about this is Canada is actually going to be the first country that gets access to this. And it's your feedback that you guys obtain is actually going to help us shape this product globally. So in Canada, the year-end compliance workflow is a huge point of contention. So we're trying to focus a lot of our efforts to make that whole process a lot easier for partners moving forward. Now, some of you might be wondering, how do you access Xero work papers? Well, as work papers and Xero all exist in the same ecosystem, it is actually extremely easy to access. You simply just select work papers from the Xero dropdown, and you can jump right in from essentially anywhere. Now, remember, this is all available on the cloud. You could be on a beach reviewing a file and just jump in if you've got an internet connection. So it makes things very, very easily without a server for you. So let's say we selected work papers. We'll now jump in to that client's particular work paper pack. Now, this is where you're going to see kind of all of their lead sheets, all of their work programs, all of this information that will essentially help you perform that year end, bring in supporting documentation, leave comments, leave client notes, whatever it might be in order to complete that year end for your client. Now, as I mentioned, because this exists within the Xero ecosystem, we actually have a direct feed from Xero to work papers. So a lot of you might be used to extracting data from your accounting software if it's on a desktop, and then re-importing it into your Xero or your year-end compliance software. Within Xero, when it all exists in the cloud and in one ecosystem, it can all be transferred directly and integrated via the cloud where you can access everything from your browser. So right here, we're seeing a refreshed feed from Xero, which is bringing in all of your general ledger data, all of your trial balance data, all into the software itself. Now that integration doesn't stop there. It goes actually much deeper than that. So I've taken an example of the cash section for this particular client at year end. What we're seeing here, they call it bank reconciliation, but let's just call it the cash section. Any accounts that are pulling into that cash lead sheet. Now we're getting our prior balance, our current balance in Xero, and we can actually enter the supporting balance to see if there's any variance from what we should be obtaining. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Xero with this direct integration does have very handy hot links that will bring you directly to your client's data in their Xero software. So for example, if you wanted to verify this balance in the checking account, you can simply select this little Xero hot link icon, and it's going to bring you directly to that client's bank reconciliation at that particular date where you can verify that ending balance or research or review any more information when you need it. Now from here, if you want to go the traditional method, you could simply export this and bring it back into Workpapers, or you could leave it as a hot link where everything is always available on the cloud. So again, in my background, this used to be my day-to-day workflow. I'd be going from something like Caseware, I'd be jumping into like a Sage, I'd pull their bank rec, and then I have to bring it back over. Everything was disconnected, and it honestly wasted a lot of time. So having everything interconnected with each other just makes your life that much easier and allows you to kind of identify errors that much quicker. So we just wanted to do a quick shout out to Countable, which is now available on the Xero ecosystem platform app store. So Countable is actually another cloud-based year-end workflow solution that will essentially integrate directly with QBO or Xero. So you can bring your trial balance directly in, create lead sheets, bring in supporting documentation, custom reconciliations, and prepare year-end financial statements all together. So I encourage any of you guys who are interested to just visit their website and just take a look at what they have to offer. So finally, guys, this brings us to our last point in the Xero streamlined workflow, which is our income tax preparation. Now, after completing your year-end adjustments in Workpapers or other year-end kind of solutions, we can now transition into our income tax stage. So this is where we get to introduce the newest member of the Xero family, TaxCycle. So who or what is TaxCycle? If you're not familiar with TaxCycle, it's a Windows-based product designed for the Canadian accountants and bookkeepers with full form filing coverage for all federal and provincial returns, including Quebec. Currently, there are over 4,000 firms and 16,000 individual accountants and bookkeeping partners on TaxCycle in Canada today. So it's really well used and a respected product. It's also created by Cameron Peters, if any of you are aware. He is kind of known as the godfather of tax here in Canada. So that's also a really awesome feature to see as well. It is directly linked with your Xero practice account and can import information directly from the software to help remove any manual data entry errors. Now, TaxCycle is a fantastic product on its own, as you guys can see, but one that is beloved by accountants across Canada. Well, what we said at the start of this presentation was, as great as these products are on their own, their true power actually comes when they're combined together, or becomes more exciting when they're combined together. So the first step in this partnership happened around this time last year, a little bit earlier, when we launched an integration with TaxCycle to better integrate corporate and partnership tax returns into that annual workflow. So that means when you're planning to file an annual tax return in TaxCycle, you can now import Giphy data from Xero directly into the right boxes in the right return in TaxCycle. So we're talking about direct data flow rather than manual data entry. So this has been a huge time saver for many. Instead of manually keying in Giphy data, which again, I'm guilty of in my past, I used to do that a lot of the time, and it's not a very efficient process. It's also prone to making errors and searching for those errors, which again bogs down your time and just all around is a huge waste of time that we don't want to condone. So this means less errors, less time spent having to validate it again, and less time switching between disconnected tools here. So the integration also works both ways as well, which is actually pretty cool. So you can easily export invoices that you've generated in TaxCycle and push those back into your Xero account to bill your clients. So this makes it a little bit easier as well. And with all this extra time, it makes the busy tax season a little bit more manageable moving forward. But we didn't stop there, guys. We've actually expanded our integration with TaxCycle to also support T1 income statements as well. Yes, I'm talking about the 21-25 and soon to come shortly after the T776 for real estate rental income coming pre-tax season for 2023. Now, this is obviously really exciting. I used to actually manage a lot of T1 clients who would literally just bring me a huge shoebox of information in order to do their T1. And part of this would be determining their income and expenses for their sole prop business as well as their rental. So being able to import this transactional data into Xero and push it directly into their T1 via TaxCycle is a huge game changer moving forward for these types of clients, especially with bookkeeping services, being relatively expensive for starting up businesses like sole props. This can be a much cheaper method on going from statement to tax so that you can still service those clients who have a little bit smaller margin as well. Awesome. So many of you are probably wondering, how are we doing this? Well, we've updated our tax mapper to support new codes for T1s as well. So now you can easily select and see different codes depending on what you're preparing, whether that's a T1 or a T2. So a lot of you are probably thinking, Nick, there's no such thing as Giphy codes for T1s. And you would be 100% correct because there isn't. However, in the spirit of efficiency, Xero has actually created our very own proprietary mapping codes for T1s, as will ensure that you can service all of your write-ups, whether that's a sole prop and a T1 or a T2 this upcoming tax season. So again, guys, I can't, drive this home enough. This is a huge feature for me because I used to do a lot of this workflow, both T2s and T1s. And I'm really excited how the market is going to react to this when they get access to it. So let's actually look at this workflow in a little bit more depth, because obviously that's what I'm here for. I want to make sure that you guys fully understand what I'm talking about. So this is our new updated Giphy tax mapper within Xero. Now, up in the top corner, we can toggle between T2s or T1s when that is available. But essentially, all of your chart of accounts are going to be on the left-hand side, and all available Giphy codes will be on the right-hand side. It's a very, very simple process. You simply just select the accounts you want. So in this example, let's say we just selected all the cash accounts, and then you can go ahead and just select map on the cash, and it'll automatically map to that particular Giphy code. So this can be a huge game changer for junior staff members or staff members who might be very new to accounting. A lot of the times when you're mapping your Giphy codes in other softwares, you really have to go online and search up that information on which Giphy code goes where, or God forbid, open up a T2 and actually physically go look at where it's supposed to go, because that can take a lot of time. So Xero actually input all of the available Giphy codes with their names into the software to make it as easy as ever to map all of your Giphy codes out. Now, you can also review the mappings at the end, which will essentially condense all of the codes into one balance. This will then help you allow to basically do a check of, is this balance correct that's going to be imported, so you don't have to adjust that later if any errors are found. So I absolutely love that feature. Now, the integration with TaxCycle, how does this come into play? I couldn't leave this presentation without actually showing you guys what this can look like. Now, when you import the Giphy data or integration with Xero through TaxCycle, you're going to get a list of all of your Xero clients available, and you can simply just select the client that you want, and it will automatically bring in that particular client's data. A lot of you might be used to taking the information from a software, exporting a Giphy file, opening your T2, pressing import, selecting that file. This can be a little bit easier on the process, and everything is interconnected with each other. So if you make any updates, it can automatically refresh. Now, once we've done that, we then get all of our Giphy fields automatically updated in tax prep in our S100 and our S125. So this is going to make it very easy to again, teach new staff, reduce the amount of manual workflow. We know that if you do make an error bringing in Giphy codes, let's say you're doing it manually, it can actually be pretty time consuming to go figure out what your mistake was. You'd have to kind of go through the income statement, go through the balance sheet, make sure everything is looking great. And it actually can take some time depending on how lengthy the accounts are within that particular client. So this can be a huge time saver moving forward. And I absolutely love this feature. So once you've gotten that, S100, S125 done, you've got your federal tax payable amount that you can now enter your provision in now. So we can just jump right back into Xero, enter in your corporate tax, provision, and finalize that year end. Now, I just have a quick little screenshot of what you can do with the financial reports within Xero, but essentially within Xero, you can make full professional level year-end compilation engagement statements, even in compliance with the new CSRS 4200 engagement standards, if you're doing that more formal year-end workflow. So essentially you're going all the way from statement to tax with financial statements, work papers, all in between, all under one software subscription. So that's really, really exciting to see, because we know a huge detriment in the market is all of these different disconnected tools, which essentially make you export and re-import a bunch of different times, which can cause errors and disconnects. So we love to see that you can follow the financials all the way through the entire process under one subscription fee. Now, this is a little video I have of Sean, who's from Simplify Accounting, and our very own Fei Pang, our country manager, talking about his shift to Xero and TaxCycle in his practice and the benefits that has had on him. So let's take a look. Oh, okay, if there's no sound, I may actually skip this section. Did you guys hear the other, someone able to post in the chat if you're able to hear that first little video, if there was any music there, or was it just no sound? No, okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm not an avid Zoom user, so I wasn't aware that this was gonna happen, but essentially, if any of you want to actually reach out, I can actually send you this video in a separate email, let's say, if you did want to take a look. But essentially, it's just showing how Sean was actually able to expand his practice a little bit quicker by utilizing those more connected tools like the demonstration that I just showed you. He was actually able to take control of his year-end workflow without all the disconnected tools and actually grow it much faster, take on new staff faster, and all around is just loving the features and the new T1 integration as well. So really sorry that you guys weren't able to see the video. But yeah, definitely reach out to me, Kelvin. I hope you guys can help out later. If someone's looking for that video, I'd be happy to send it to them separately. Okay, so if we are going to skip that video, we can jump right into the recap and takeaways. So I went through a huge amount of information throughout most of this presentation, which you guys are probably all slowly digesting. So I just want to take you guys through again what that workflow looked like at a glance, and just kind of more high level overview to give you guys some kind of little tidbits to walk away with. So as you guys remember, we went through the year-end workflow at a glance. So we started from the data intake and how HubDoc is making it easier than ever to get your clients' data from your statements into Xero. Now, this is making it easier than ever. Even if you're not utilizing Xero, I highly recommend utilizing a tool to extract bank statement items from PDFs into a CSV or Excel format, which will make it that much more malleable and allow you to make your workflows a lot more efficient. Because again, guys, we want to reduce the manual data entry in your workflow. That's just automatically going to cause a lot of wasted time. So next, we harness Xero's core capabilities for fast and efficient reconciliations. We saw how you were able to click one button and reconcile 152 out of 160 transactions within a matter of seconds. I deal with a lot of partners on a day-to-day basis. And when I show them this, they actually just bring their data to me for the first time. There's no kind of demo data, it's not fake. And we can actually go through a bunch of transactions very quickly. I had one instance where a gentleman brought 6,000 bank transactions that we imported. And within 10 minutes, we were able to get through 1,000 of them. So this is where we're seeing huge amounts of efficiencies in these cloud-based workflows when stepping away from that disconnected manual workflow. Next, if you're performing a compliance workflow, you can use something like work papers to basically get through that compliance workflow, bring in your supporting documentation, create your year-end entries, and perform some sort of risk analysis. If you're simply going from statement to T2 without performing the compliance work, you can skip this step and go directly to the T2. And finally, how when Xero and TaxCycle are paired together, it's going to be a force to be reckoned with for your T2 and T1 clients this upcoming busy season with those direct integrations. So all of these pieces kind of coming together to create a more streamlined year-end compliance workflow. Now, one last thing I just threw in here because I wanted to make everyone aware. We wanted to share Xero small business insights with you all because this can be very important with a lot of your clients and might actually help you have better discussions with your clients kind of moving forward as well. Small businesses are essentially the backbone of our economy, accounting for more than 99% of all businesses, employing millions of people. And despite the importance of small business, there's currently very few data sets and reports that look specifically at small business conditions. So the majority is released only periodically and collected via small surveys. A lack of small business data makes it difficult for policymakers and researchers to form an accurate view around how policy decisions and economic forces are impacting businesses. So Xero is really trying to help close this information gap by expanding its Xero Small Business Insights. So if you guys are interested, you can take a look at that QR code, should give you more information, but essentially it's just giving you financial information regarding the small business climate right now in Canada, and hopefully a lot of that information can be used to service your clients better. So that kind of concludes everything that I wanted to go through today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm not sure if we have too much time for questions, but if there are, I'd be happy to go through some with you guys.
Yep, there's definitely time for questions. So
awesome.
We can end it maybe at about 5 minutes too, so I can hop off and get the other Nick. So if anybody does have questions, please feel free. There was a ton of information in that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just going to be watching the chat here to see if anything comes up, guys.
Yeah, and in terms of
thank you, Beverly.
In terms of that video, we can coordinate with Trent and the marketing team there to make sure that it's shipped out.
Yeah, they're not going to learn any new information from it, but it was just kind of a example of a successful adoption of Xero and TaxCycle within a practice. So definitely happy to share that though if anyone is really interested. I was kind of actually worried coming into this that you guys might not be able to hear it because honestly, I haven't shared too many videos. So you roll with the punches.
Technology.
Exactly. All right.
Okay. If you're done, we can sign off, give everybody a break, and move on to the next session.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it so much, Calvin and Trent, and looking forward to the rest of the sessions today.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Nick, for your time. That was really great.
No problem. Take care, guys.
Okay, see everybody in the next session.